There are lots of exciting things happening in Louisville. Perhaps you've heard about reimagining the Belvedere, what's happening on 4th Street, and there is a huge buzz about the Louisville Film Industry. So, with that being said, lights, camera, action, welcome to Louisville Focus. Welcome into Louisville Focus. You know, when we think about economic development, a lot of times we think about the shiny new business coming to Louisville, maybe a new restaurant, a new bank, finance, whatever it may be. But think about the film industry. Well, we're not Hollywood yet, but we're getting there thanks to Scott Handel, who is the founder of OHD Studios. Scott, thanks for joining us.
John, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk to you and excited to tell you, what we've got going on here. The film community is really exploding here in Louisville. There's a great tax incentive in place, and because of that, there's all kinds of activities that are coming in to support that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show, but I want to hear about the history of this building, these studios, because it is impressive, Scott. So tell us a little bit about OHD. I know that's a reference to Ohio.
Yeah.
So tell me about the history of this particular building.
So this building is great. It's had a long storied history in the entertainment industry. Steve Staley is a guy that a lot of people in the production market know. And Steve kind of built this place over 20 or 30 years, and he was that go-to resource anytime something happened in the film world in Kentucky. And so Steve retired, kind of moved on, and we saw this building. Actually, a friend of mine posted something about it on Facebook one day, and I looked at it, and I saw the history, and I just kind of fell in love with the space. And we were looking. We operated a studio in Columbus, Ohio. We were looking for an expansion market, and we saw Louisville, and we just said, yeah, let's. It's 3 hours away. Let's keep this studio alive. Let's invest some money into this. We saw the film tax credit incentive. We saw all the activity happening here, and we just wanted to be a part of it.
So, Scott, when I opened up the segment, a slight exaggeration when I talked about Hollywood, but there are comparable markets. You mentioned Columbus, Ohio. I know they're doing a lot of exciting things in Atlanta. What is the North Star for OHD Studios?
So, there are a lot of markets that are competing for that Hollywood business right now. So, Atlanta's one, Michigan has kind of come and gone with that. We think Ohio, we think Kentucky, we think places that I think are livable communities, right? When I got into this business when I was a kid and at that point, everybody moved to New York or moved to LA, and that was the dream, right? Like if you were going to work in this industry, that's what you did. And I didn't want to do that, I had a family. I wanted to have sidewalks, and I wanted to have a sense of community. I built my business in Columbus, Ohio. We see Louisville, Kentucky very much as a similar type city where family values matter, where you can raise a family, you can have a lifestyle, and the industry doesn't have to be your life. You can work in this industry, you can be creative, but it doesn't have to be your life. But it requires a lot of folks coming together to create that infrastructure. So when Hollywood's looking for a place, the incentive's one thing, but the infrastructure's the other thing. They have to know that they can come into that space and they have equipment they can use. They have to have trained, kind of engineers and technicians that are available, so they're not traveling those folks in. Just all of these things coming together, sets and lighting and all of these disciplines. They have to have hotel rooms, they have to have restaurants for catering. It's a big operation. It's like moving an army into town. There's an old Orson Welles quote that he says, a writer uses a pen, but a filmmaker requires an army. And that's really what it is. It's this army that comes in, and you've got all these specialties and this team that you build. And so that's what Louisville's trying to do now, is build those teams. And I know, Susie at 502 Films has been working on training sessions for different trades, and we're working with her to create, again, workshops and things like that. So we build this workforce from the ground up. So, it's not only having the equipment, the facilities, it's the workforce, it's the tax incentive, it's all these things working together.
Well, Scott, if I take the studio, the lighting, the army that you have here and put that aside, you're a nice guy. I'm glad you're here. You're a great host. Do you mind giving us a little bit of a tour?
I'd love to show you the place. Let's check it all out.
Let's do it.
Hey, great to have Metro TV out here today to see a little behind the scenes at OHD Studios. Come on with me, take a little peek behind the curtain and see what's going on. We've got two studio spaces here that we use for different clients. They're kind of configured differently. We've got Studio A behind me. Let's take a look, see what's going on. So this is our A stage at OHD Studios, and it's basically a blank canvas where you can kind of create whatever you want. If you wanted to use an interview kind of set up with kind of a limbo background, we can do that. A lot of folks will come in here and build a set from scratch. So they'll build a kitchen or a bathroom or a living room and, you know, basically make that illusion happen with lighting and backgrounds and props and actors and all that kind of fun stuff, and basically make whatever they want to come to life in this room. So it's basically just a blank canvas for artists to kind of work with and make whatever they want to make. So the facility we have here incorporates a lot of various things that we need in production. So we've got a green room where the actors can kind of get makeup, get ready, have a space to relax, run their lines. We have a full service rental shop here. And so we've got cameras that run anywhere from $2,000, little bitty guys, up to $200,000 for high-speed cameras that'll shoot those slow motion effect shots that you know, people use to make, you know, actors look great as they're, you know, firing the gun, diving into a pile of mattresses, or, you know, shrimp look great as they're flying into the air, you know, for a commercial kind of shoot. Our Studio B incorporates a green screen stage, so you've seen that in behind the scenes things with movies. So for special effects and things where they want to create a different background but maybe don't have that in person, so, you know, it needs to be generated in a computer. That background, that green, can be replaced by anything and create, again, a space for our imagination to kind of take flight. We've also got a full service kitchen here that we can do food prep for commercial work, so we can make, you know, any type of food and beverage product look awesome and then shoot it here in the studio or shoot it in the green room. So our original studio is in Columbus, Ohio, and it's been there for several years, and 3 years ago we opened up the studio here in Louisville. It's important for us because we want to work in communities that we think are livable. I wanted to do creative work, I wanted to work with creative people, but I didn't necessarily want to go to New York or LA. I want people to know that this type of facility, these type of resources are available right here in Louisville. So, you know, advertising agencies, film companies, whoever, they don't have to go to necessarily a larger, you know, kind of metro market like New York or LA. Those tools, those professionals, those people are here. That network is building right here in Louisville, so we can do creative work here and keep that money, keep those resources right here at home. So we're here in the equipment room. We do a full service rental of camera, lighting, lenses, and electronics. This is an Alexa 35 camera. This would be something they'd shoot the latest James Bond on. It's a great camera. People come in this room, they do a full test. You know, we've got charts and things to help ready the equipment, so when it gets on set, it's gonna work, and when you got a high pressure, you know, kind of actor sitting in front that has no patience for you, he doesn't want to be here, and it's gonna be 5 more minutes because they're trying to figure out something technical with the camera. So we want to make sure when the cameras leave here and everything leaves here, it's ready to go, it's movie ready, and it's showtime. Thanks again for coming out and checking out our studio at OHD Studios today. We've had a great time talking with everybody, and we're excited to see you come out and make some movie magic with us. But right now, I gotta go.
If you've lived in Louisville for any length of time, then you're very aware of the allure, the attractiveness of our city. With that being said, did you know we are now attracting producers and directors of film? And a lot of that is due to this lady, Susie Eastman, who is the president of 502 Film and also the Louisville Film Office. Susie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, when I do think of Kentucky and the rolling hills, it is a beautiful state. With that being said, producers, filmmakers, they want more than a beautiful backdrop.
Absolutely. They want incentives. They want a reason to leave their coastal homes to find a new home for their production.
So if you had to say, in a nutshell, if you had to say, okay, here's why the film industry is more vibrant now in Louisville specifically, is it the incentives?
Hands down. It's the incentive that started in January 2022. That is really what got eyes onto our state. And then I think once these producers and directors start coming here and looking around, they see the variety that we have in our locales, all different looks, especially within the 30-mile zone of Louisville.
So, Susie, when you say incentives, a lot of us think tax credits. How does it work in the film industry?
So the way it works is when they spend their dollars here, that they get 30 to 35% in terms of a tax credit after they spend their dollars here. Anything that doesn't go towards their tax liability then goes back to the company.
Gotcha. So here's the good news for folks who live here in Louisville. This is really a trickle-down effect as far as the film industry and not only hiring people and keeping actors and lighting folks and whatever the case may be, but it does so much more. Talk about what it does for our economic value here in Louisville.
Absolutely. So the first thing I always point to is if anybody sits around and looks at the end credits of a film. A lot of times we skip through that, but if you take a beat and look, there are hundreds of names. So those aren't just the crew members that are on there. Those are the people that are the caterers, the electricians, the other hoteliers, restaurateurs that make money off of these productions coming to town. So there really is a trickle-down effect about that. Also, the fact that our crew members can now live, stay, and pay taxes in their own community instead of having to go other places to find work. That's huge. To be able to go home and go to sleep in your own home instead of having to travel for work, that's a big deal for our community. But also, all of the things we love about our city and our area are now being shown in these films. We can watch them and be so proud of what we have in our local community.
Obviously, you have a high level of expertise. You've traveled a lot. You've been involved in film, I would say, most of your life.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about what was the allure for you. You could work anywhere in the country, Susie. For you, film aside, what was the allure of Louisville, Kentucky for you?
Well, quite honestly, I was born and raised here, but I left at 18 for New York because there wasn't really a film industry when I was younger. And then I moved to Los Angeles and worked out there for about 16 years. And it's because of our film tax incentive. When I was shooting my first feature film, I came back to Kentucky temporarily. I was saying, temporarily, that's now 11 years later. So I'm really fortunate that when I came home, there was this burgeoning industry that I could see myself growing and having a future in. And I'm so thankful to be a part of it.
Obviously, it's very competitive now. A lot of different states are looking to try to become a hub for filmmaking. Louisville seems to be succeeding in that area. So there's what's going on in Atlanta. We talked to Scott a little bit about Columbus, Ohio. What, to you, other than tax incentives, separates Kentucky maybe from the rest of the pack?
Well, I always do point towards that tax incentive first and foremost because we are one of the top in the country, right? So you start getting the eye of these creators because we have that film tax incentive. But if you look at the topography that we have here, the variety. So when you're shooting a film over a certain dollar amount, you're likely to be a union film and you have to work within a 30-mile zone. So let's just take downtown Louisville and think about a 30-mile zone of downtown Louisville. You have rural looks, you have little old town, little small towns, you have dystopian areas where you can do horror films. People have faked 1970s New York and downtown. So the variety of looks that we have, but also our crew base is incredibly talented. So we have over 700 vetted crew members on our database at 502 Film that we refer out to these productions coming to town. So it's also very important, what type of vendors do you have? What type of locations? And how talented is your crew? And our crew is extraordinarily talented.
I love hearing that. So it is my understanding, and clarify if you would please, that to qualify for these incentives, you do have to, because it's Kentucky, you do have to hire the majority of your crew, or is it all of your crew from Kentucky? So we're also developing talent here.
Exactly. So what I love about our incentive is we do incentivize out-of-state hires, but we incentivize in-state hires at a higher level. So that does get people to hire more local crew, and then they're also not paying for hotel accommodations and per diems. But the reason I love the fact that we incentivize out-of-state crew is we've been able to educate and level up our in-state crew by being on these big sets with established, some Academy Award nominees. Our crew is learning from some of the best that's come here to film, and now we can take these key roles and now leveling up every production, more and more becoming like 90% local crew hires.
Unlike yourself, Susie, I'm like the average Joe, so I hear rumors about different films being, or different actors being in town, or whatever the case may be, but you have your fingers on the pulse. So tell me, okay, everyone is always just fascinated with stars and movies, so what films have been filmed here? What do you see on the horizon? Talk a little bit about that.
So I can't speak in too much detail about what's coming, but I will definitely say that 2025 looks like a very busy year, which is very exciting because we continue to level up, and each production that comes here, then they have their own word of mouth within their connections to say, hey, I just shot in Louisville. The crew is fantastic. The locations are awesome. Vendors are great. Like, people need to get there and film more. So now we have more and more picking up, not only because there's marketing that's being done at like the American Film Market, etc., but it's the word of mouth that's really helping to pick things up. But yeah, I find it very fun when we have stars here. I mean, having lived in LA for so long, I'm like, people are people. I can remember being at Starbucks and like being behind Harrison Ford in line, and I'm like, he drinks coffee too, you know? And it's like people, when they come here and their boots on the ground, they're like, did I just see Dustin Hoffman at Barvetti? And I'm like, yeah, probably. You know, it's like kind of matter of fact for me, but I forget that it's like when they're out and about in town, it can be really exciting and meaningful for a lot of these restaurants and vendors that they visit as well.
Now, this is exciting. You know, you talk about word of mouth and national press. When the Sundance Film Festival opted to, hey, we may leave Utah, we're looking for a new location to hold our festival, Louisville made it to the final 6, which is huge considering how many cities applied and wanted to be a part of that. Talk about what that has done for you in terms of national media and, as you said, word of mouth.
Oh yeah, that was incredible. And you know, I loved it both on a local level, the way that it felt like the community was really coming together for what we were all kind of calling our North Star. So individuals from all different industries and all different organizations were coming together to really push for Sundance to come here. But in reality, the amount of press that we got, people would say, wow, I didn't think this about Louisville. People would be reaching out from New York and LA, Atlanta, Chicago, giving me a call and saying like, hey, Kentucky and Louisville specifically, a sleeper city, huh? And I'm like, no, not actually too much of a sleeper city, baby. Come over here and see what we've got going on. So it really was a great opportunity for those that might not have recognized what kind of culture and arts community we have here and economic impact that our film industry has. This put a light on it, and I was so thankful for that.
Okay, I'm going to bring this a little bit more personal, okay? So here we go.
Anything you want.
Well, you entertain not only actors, but really probably more importantly, the producers and the people who will actually bring film to Louisville. So where do you take them? What do you want them to see of Louisville? Because I'm very proud of the city. I know you are as well. Where do you like to show them around?
Well, I think that what's very important is that they have an immediate feel for our crew and for our film family, that we have very equitably and inclusively grown, and we have a lot of love for one another. So generally I'll set up like a meet and greet at one of our like favorite dive bars where a lot of crew hangs out, so that they can come and just actually connect with our community of creatives, because I think that's number one. We have something very special here in terms of just kind of the closeness of our creative crew community. So I make sure that they can meet crew when they come in town on, let's say, a location scout. Generally, when they go to look at locations, they're very specific to each project, right? You aren't taking like we were talking about, like a dystopian horror film that's going to be shooting in warehouses. I'm not taking them out to Bardstown to look at rolling fields. So the location scouts that we have here in town take them to very site-specific locales based on their script. And then when they're here, it really depends on where these individuals are coming from, what their sensibilities are, because you can go, you know, super highbrow, you can go a little bit more dive bar, you know, again, but there are a lot of different places in town, just depending, but I know a lot, like our different restaurants and local food scenes, so taking them to those places.
So we've talked a lot about what attracts filmmakers and incentives, of course, and you made that emphasis as number one, and I agree with that. But you talked about the talent here, crews, restaurants, the different scenery that we have here in Louisville. But I'm going to say that I think number one attraction is Susie Eastman.
Oh.
Because you are such a good representative and ambassador for the city. In your position, you need to be bullish on Louisville. You need to love the city. That's you.
I love this city. I love the city. I love the people who live here. I love our different businesses. I love the culture and the feel of our city, the support our arts community has. So it's very easy to go out there with a bullhorn. So I try to, as much as I am sometimes the first point of contact for a lot of films, at the same time, I also want to take a bit of a back seat because there are so many other things that are the shining stars of this community. And I'm just the one with the bullhorn out here making sure that everybody hears about it. Right? So I know it can kind of be like, there's Susie talking about film again, but it's like, this is my love, my passion, and I'm so thankful that I get to do this in my hometown.
And we are thankful that we have you, Susie. So thank you so much. The president of 502 Film and the Louisville Film Office, Susie Eastman, thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
Mary Kay Poe is a driving force behind positioning Louisville in a prominent and respected position in the film industry. She joins me now. Mary Kay, thank you so much for joining me.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. We go way back.
We do. Yeah. Too far to mention here.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. But you know, something I think is interesting is you've been instrumental in putting Louisville in a prominent position in the film industry, but I never knew you about your interest in film. So tell me a little bit about where that started for you personally.
Yeah, so it started, actually it started in casting a long time ago. I tell people I started in casting when you couldn't put a photograph on the computer. So that's how long ago. So then when the fast forward to when the film industry was kind of venturing out from Los Angeles to different markets, I thought, why not Kentucky? So started looking into how you go about getting the film industry here, and saw that the markets that were successful offered production incentives, and that's a legislative move. So that's where I went in.
Love this, because that's been central to our conversation. The reason why the film industry is growing here in Louisville are mainly the incentives. And we had a brief conversation before we started, and you said something, Mary Kay, that really struck me. You go, this is not the sexy side. Yeah. The business side of the film industry is not sexy, but it is needed. So how did you know how to really kind of navigate the legislative side to get a legislation, get bills passed to give these incentives?
I learned quickly that it's not your fifth grade civics lesson, how a bill becomes a law. It's a lot more in-depth than that. So it was a lot of research. I knew what I wanted. I knew what would be competitive in the market. And I knew that we would have to start with a splash, because Kentucky wasn't exactly on the top of everybody's mind for the film industry. So I just started making calls, knocking on doors, and showing up every day at the legislative session, and talking to as many people as I could. It was a big learning curve, because the film industry is not typical of manufacturing, even though that's what we're doing, is manufacturing a product. But there's no place that you go to stamp a, time card or something. So just a lot of educating legislators on how the business works.
So the fact that it is out of the ordinary when it comes to economic development, I think makes it even more interesting because of the crew and the people that you hire, and because of the heads in beds. And we talk about restaurant industry and really commerce for the entire city and the entire state. I would think you would be welcomed by Governor Beshear and Mayor Greenberg, that they would say, oh, this is good. I see what this does. And plus it makes the city a little bit more, glamorous, shines that diamond on the city. So talk about that, about the kind of reception you've gotten when you've tried to work through government.
Okay, well, it's been, since the beginning, it's a chicken and egg, because you got to have the incentives for the projects to come. But then when they started, we started with these small, under $5-10 million features. And what that allowed us to do was get everybody understanding, oh yeah, this is jobs. It's not just the movie stars. And every occupation that you can name is sometime used in the film industry. So you don't have to want to be a director, but if you want to be a carpenter, you've got a job there. And so that's what attracted workforce development, and we're making a lot of strides there. And then tourism, the first meeting with them is like, wait, this isn't going to take our room tax, is it? And we're like, no, and now new legislation, the film office is going to be, funded partly by tourism because they see the benefit of
Right.
it.
So you've come a long way. This
just the evolution of
yes,
it.
it's all good news. Tell me a little bit about Unbridled Films.
Unbridled Films is my kind of umbrella company, and we've produced 2 feature films, Don't Tell a Soul with Rainn Wilson, Dwight from The Office, who plays a very different role. And What We Do Next was those are both out on streaming. Project now is a documentary about the Cornbread Mafia,
Ooh, that'll be a good
which
one.
is a Kentucky story. And so we will have that. That's a feature-length doc that we hope to propel then into a scripted series.
Johnny Boone, right?
Johnny Boone,
Yep.
Godfather of Grass.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about, there are so many rumors. Because I work in metro government, I'm a little bit more familiar than most, but not as familiar as you. If you would, tell folks about the Louisville Gardens and what's happening there.
So much is happening. Adaptive reuse. I've learned about that word.
Adaptive
reuse. So when you take a historic building like that has been sitting for a while, we're finding all kinds of interesting things to work around, shall we say. So yes, we're taking the old, what was an armory, and then an arena, and then a sports and concert venue, and we're repurposing that into a Class A soundstage facility. Phase 1 is restoring Louisville Gardens, and then we have the block adjacent between 6th and 7th, so that will be part of Phase 1. And then we have, so we hope that will allow us to draw bigger projects and hopefully series. We have a lot of good interest now from some of the major studios, and
right.
we hope to bring series here.
Mary Kay, you're obviously an entrepreneur and a visionary. So what do you envision for the future? What is the best case scenario for Louisville and the film industry?
Ooh, okay, so here's my vision. I hope that this will start a creative, technical population of jobs to start in downtown Louisville and revitalize there. But then I see between the Louisville airport and the Northern Kentucky airport, someday I can see sound stages and studios all up and down that corridor.
See, we need visionaries like you. You are that, so thank you. I really appreciate you.
That's what we're working on. Don't think we're going to market Kentucky as one market. I don't think Louisville is not going to compete with Atlanta or LA or New York, but Kentucky can.
There we
So
go.
Louisville obviously is the economic hub of this state, and that will continue with this
I
industry
appreciate
too.
your vision. I really do. Mary Kay, I can't say thank you enough because you're a visionary, but you're someone, and they're very rare, to take a vision and make it reality. So I really thank you.
Thank you.
And once again, Mary Kay Pohl, a driving force, a visionary for the film industry right here in the state of Kentucky and the city of Louisville. When you talk about the film industry, you can take individuals like maybe you talk to a writer or a producer or a director, or you can talk to one gentleman, Nathaniel Spencer, because he's done it all. Nathaniel, you have done it all, haven't you?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. It's a blessing, though, to be able to have to do it all, sometimes.
It is.
I like it.
Well, there's a lot of talent in one man.
I love it, man. I love it, though.
I want to talk about, you were the founder of BIPOC. What exactly is BIPOC an acronym for, Nathaniel?
Okay, well, the acronym stands for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color United. I guess you could say I kind of coined that U on BIPOC. I think it gives it more meaning, it gives it more strength. So altogether, we're the Kentucky BIPOC Filmmakers Association. That's the organization that I founded and executive director of.
All right. You know, some of your work that I think aligns with that. I went to the African American Heritage Museum here in Louisville, and you have a piece there, or a film piece. Talk to folks about that. It's very moving. If you don't mind explaining that, because I think it encourages people to visit and see.
Now, you speaking of the Dirt Bowl?
No. There was a piece down there, and I thought it was attributed to you at the African American Heritage Museum's kind of like a film, a history.
The 360?
Yes.
The 360 film.
Yes.
That is, I did actually direct and produce that as well. Yeah, I think it was cool to be able to do it in VR. That's what I did it in, and that was a few years ago.
Yes, that I
Yeah,
saw
it was a few
that
years ago.
and that's why your name stuck out. I said, "Oh, I get to talk to Nathaniel Spencer today." So yeah.
Yeah.
So you're talented guy. You mentioned something. I'm going to bring this back up because I think it's worthy of mention. Anyone who loves sports here in Louisville, if they don't know the history of the Dirt Bowl, Algonquin, Shawnee Park. You know, that's where Darrell Griffith kind of proved his mettle, and a lot of NBA players. Tell folks about the Dirt Bowl, because to me, I relate it to like Rucker Park in New York.
It is, yeah.
Yes, talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was. You know, we would say that we were better than. Of course, you know, New York is New York, so they're gonna be more like y'all know we are. But you know, Shawnee Park brought in a lot of greats, you know, and how it impacted the community to me is what made it really great, and how it brought people together to come and watch these professional basketball players, these NCAA champions come and play, you know. The community needed that, especially in the West End. You know, it was like the party on the courts.
Yes, it was.
And off the courts.
It was what a lot of cities really need as far as bringing community together, entertainment, local talent, and national talent was coming in, because it was the best pickup basketball in the country. What did you find fascinating in doing that research? Obviously, you're an expert when it comes to, or are very knowledgeable about that event, that tournament. Tell me about it.
Well, man, I tell you, doing the research, I was blessed to be able to talk to about 60 people, from the fans to Darrell Griffith, Anderson, you know.
Derek Anderson,
Derek
yeah.
Anderson. Man, there was this, I'm trying to think of all the greats. There's so many, it's like, which one do I say, which one do I say? I think what was great about it and doing the research was finding out how much they really did care about the people that were watching them. You know, I mean, it was competitive though. It was very competitive.
Oh, yeah.
It was super competitive. But the competitors had to have the fans. They had to have the fans, man. And the good smells of the food that's coming through across the court too, because there was some great food there.
Yeah, forget about food trucks. It was made right there, and it was delicious.
Absolutely.
I heard a story, and you may be able to verify this, and I actually heard it from Darrell Griffith, and then other folks told me, yes, it was true. He said, look, Bobby Turner and I, two local talented basketball players, I mean, every college is looking at these guys. He said, we wanted to get in the pro division. He said, they told us we weren't ready. He said, so we formed our own team. We just formed our own team. And there was Darrell stole the ball, and so he's on a breakaway, and Artis Gilmore's down there waiting for him.
I know where you're going.
Yeah, so finish the story for me.
Well, he slam dunked on Artis Gilmore. But in the documentary, which I spoke to Artis Gilmore, I was able to talk to him. It was on the phone. It was a really cool shot too, watching him on the phone, where he's only this big, but we know how big he really is.
Yeah, about 7'3".
Yes, he is, very big. And you know, he kind of disputed it, but the witnesses saw it.
Yes, yeah.
The witnesses saw it.
I know the honesty of Darrell Griffith. I'm going with that one.
Yes,
I
yes.
think Artis,
yes.
I'm not doubting his honesty, but hey, he's also has some pride.
He
So he's
has
like,
some pride. Oh yeah, he was like, oh no, but it happened.
Yeah, it happened.
It happened.
It did happen. Thank you for clarifying. Okay, so talk about some of the other work that you're most proud of, Nathaniel.
Well, I'm
actor,
really,
director, producer.
I'm
you've
really,
done.
I'm most proud of being back home and being part of the growth and building of the film industry here in Louisville and Kentucky as a whole. That's what I'm most proud of, honestly. Being able to be in California and get the experience there for about 5 years, doing film up in New York, producing up there, and then, you know, doing a full circle coming back home after, I don't know, I don't want to say how long it's been, but it's been a while.
Well,
So
you've got the passion and the knowledge.
Yeah.
So you're a good person to ask this question. We've talked a lot about the current state of the Louisville film industry, or Kentucky. So what have you seen as it has evolved? What do you see? Are you optimistic moving forward?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, you know, when first getting involved with the film industry here through the Film Commission, I mean, there was very few things happening, you know. Even when I did the Dirt Bowl film, I had to discover that there was a film festival to even submit it to. Where when I had come in from California, and I was just used to just being on the sets and doing things, you know, and come back home, it's kind of quiet. So I would say really honestly in the last 3 years, and a little bit before COVID, when we were pushing for legislation and stuff like that to keep things going, the community, the film community really went in and made sure that we didn't stop doing what we did. We created more data. And when that happened, the city and the state itself was like, hey, maybe we should support these guys, you know? We see that we're bringing in a lot of economy. We're building the economy, right?
Definitely.
We're building the economy.
Economic impact.
Economic impact. I mean, big time. That's a big thing. And then seeing the interest from folks that want to get into the industry, younger folks, even those in their 70s are, you know, going to like the PA camps that 502 Film is having. You know, that gets me excited to see other people excited about the industry itself. That really, truly gets me excited because I love people. Yes. And I love community, and that's the big deal with me. It's like
you love your profession.
I do love my profession. I do love my
your
profession.
passion is contagious.
Yeah,
so
I do love it.
You're the right man because it is contagious. So in regard to your profession, I mentioned director, producer, actor.
Yes.
So what's left to be done for you? What's on your bucket list? And you say, I still want to do what? Executive
produce. I want to help other people. I want to be able to financially give to filmmakers so that they can make their films, man. That's really my big thing next. It's like a real executive producer, like, I got the money.
It does come down to the money, doesn't
it? It does.
In any industry.
It does.
Nathaniel Spencer, thank you so much for spending time with us. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Hey, you're going to do that. He's going to be an executive producer. You watch and see. There's a couple of things that are very obvious about Dwight Turner. First of all, he's way too handsome. I'm not liking this, okay? And he loves what he does, and he's been doing it for 33 years. He joins me now. Dwight, welcome in. And yes, you look too good. I don't like the comparison. Let's keep it on you, okay?
Well, thank you so much. I very much appreciate the compliment.
When I'm looking at your resume and it says 33 years, it's hard to believe. So my first question to you is, okay, what's the secret? You're staying really young, or did you start when you were 6? What's the deal?
Well, I'd like to say I started when I was 6. I think I fell in love with the industry when I was 6 before I even really realized it. But I think part of the secret is just being happy and enjoying what you do. That plays a big part in it, and I do really enjoy what I do.
Your story is unusual in many ways, but I think we have to start with, you're from Hazard, Kentucky. You've had a lot of success. So do you find that unusual?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's be honest.
Yeah, yes. To be honest, but you know, I did an article recently, a story in the Voice Tribune where I talked about how it doesn't matter where you start out, it matters where you finish. And I wanted to give inspiration in that story to those growing up in very small towns like I did. I grew up kind of in the mountains in the middle of nowhere, no connection to the industry whatsoever. In fact, when I moved to LA, which I decided to do right after I finished college, I was so naive, had no connections. But sometimes things happen, and being at the right place at the right time, I lucked out. The very first professional audition I ever went on in my entire life, I landed a national commercial and was instantly in the union. And it was a really great way to start. Now, that doesn't mean it's always easy going. You know, the industry has its ups and downs. But through those ups and downs and over the years, it's been such an enjoyable experience. I have enjoyed every minute of it, whether I'm producing, directing, casting, or acting. It's all fun, even when at the times when I want to pull my hair out. It's still a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it, and I know I'm doing the right thing.
You know, we all hear the stories about struggling actors, and that's usually the norm. Yours is unusual in that instant success that you had. So obviously the talent is there, because I'm putting myself in your position. I'm going, okay, I'm a young actor. This is my first audition. I'm nervous. I'm probably going to blow it. What was it in you that gave you the confidence and you landed the gig?
Honestly, part of that at that moment was probably the naivete of the situation and not really comprehending or understanding how big of a deal it was. So therefore, I just went in and did my thing and didn't really have all those nerves that probably came in more later when I understood a little bit more what was at stake for different
ignorance
situations.
is bliss, and in this case, inexperience was bliss, because you didn't know what you were getting into and how big it was. Because I know for a fact a national commercial pays good money. We won't talk about that, but good for you is all I'm going to say.
Oh yeah, and you know, the whole way that transpired was interesting, because I moved out there. I got myself into a little acting class. Later on, I got myself into some really amazing acting classes, like with Nina Foch. But this was a little acting class. I went to one of the guys that was in the acting class. I went to his birthday party. A guy came up to me at the birthday party and said, "Are you an actor?" And I said, "Why, yes." And he gave me his card, said, "I'm your friend's agent. Come in and see me this Wednesday at 3 p.m. I'm going to see if I can get you work." I went in to see him. He signed me, sent me on my first ever professional audition that Friday, and that's what I landed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because my son and my daughter-in-law are both actors, that I know how hard it is to land an agent. So good for you. I'm happy it's all worked out. I want to talk about one area of expertise that you have, Turner casting. So for young ones out there, and maybe even some older folks who are interested in acting, talk to me about what you look for and maybe the preparation for an actor when they do come into an audition.
Well, you know, there were a lot of things to look for. With Turner casting, I've been casting for a number of years now, and I've cast everything from background on series to some principal roles to recently a regional Super Bowl commercial, which was a fun experience. What you look for really depends upon the project and what the project is about and what the production is looking for. A lot of people think that casting directors make the final decisions. We don't. We're kind of like the guides. We guide production on who we think would be right, but ultimately that final decision is up to the production. And unless you're an executive producer, you ultimately don't get to make that final decision. The executive producers do. I'm executive producer for Rep, which is a documentary about our freshman state representatives in Frankfurt. I get to make the final decisions there, but for casting, generally that is not the case. You're a guide, and you're guiding them on who you think would be good for the different roles. Now, let's take an example. Okay, so recently I cast a commercial for, can I say the name of it?
Sure.
Of the product? For University of Kentucky Federal Credit Union. And we were looking for Sasquatch, a guy to play Bigfoot. And so there are certain parameters there, a certain height, a certain feel, a certain essence. That's what I look for when I'm casting. What is the essence that they're looking for, meaning production, and what is the essence that these various performers bring? And I'm trying to match that up. You know, we have certain things that we will, certain guidelines that we will give performers, give actors, and I'm not suggesting that people out there do this, but this one guy broke all the rules. He did everything different from the way he was supposed to have done it, but he was so darn good that it worked.
Authentic.
He was authentic and it worked, and that's what happens sometimes. And it's like, boom, that's it. And production felt the same, and he got hired and he did a fantastic job.
You know, obviously you're very accomplished and you've had a lot of success, but I think they should make a film about your story, because something that speaks to the kind of person you are is how you landed back in Kentucky. You're having success in LA, things are going well, but this speaks to you as a person. Dwight, tell folks about why you came back.
Well, My mom was going through health issues, and I was living in Santa Monica at the time on 14th Street, so pretty close to the ocean. And I made a decision that she needed help and I was going to come back and help her. And that's what I did. Now, a little tidbit was when I was growing up in a small town, and even when I went to college in Kentucky, I couldn't wait to get away. I couldn't wait to move to the big city. But there was something about when I came back and the various things with the incentives and the industry things that are happening here in Kentucky, it all just fell into place. And I fell in love with Kentucky much more so than I did in my youth when I couldn't wait to leave. It's a fascinating experience for me because when I lived in LA, I never imagined that I would be living in Kentucky again. And I absolutely love it. And it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like something that I needed. And I'm thankful to be here. And yeah.
I love that story. I love that because we've talked a lot about incentives, but the love of the state and the fact that, hey, I think the big man upstairs is looking out for you because it's like, okay, come back here and help your mother. And now you found, hey, there's work here too, and I can grow and flourish and still pursue what I do, whether it be producing, writing, acting, right here in Louisville, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, it's like, is the glass half full or half empty? You know, I look at things sometimes and I'm like, well, what would be happening right now if I were in LA? But then again, there are all of these things happening here that I never even expected. And it's really just a fantastic journey. And I mean, once again, I just enjoy it. I truly get joy from the various things that I do in the industry. And I absolutely love seeing all that's happening in Kentucky, which, to be honest with you, when I first moved back here, never imagined that it would be at the point that it is now and where it's going.
So to say that you're optimistic about the future of Kentucky film is an understatement, which I love hearing. What do you think is your biggest accomplishment? We talked about Super Bowl commercials, and you've been in a lot of feature films. If someone asked you, they said, okay, what are you most proud of, Dwight?
Oh, gosh. Well, there are a number of things. I mean, last year, for instance, I was concentrating on producing and directing and casting, and then I landed a supporting role in blockbuster Bad Boys Ride or Die. And that was completely unexpected. Flew down to Miami a number of times, had a fantastic time working on the project. And, you know, it's not a huge role, but it's a huge film. And you see me and you hear my voice. I play a newscaster, and it was a great experience. And one of the things that I would say because I'm on the board of SAG-AFTRA Nashville, and one of the things I would say to performers out there is if you strive to get into the union, the residuals can be very good. So yeah, so when you land
voice of experience.
When you land a big project like that, and I've also done other things that I really love, like playing Dr. Thomas Mayberry on Chicago Fire. I did a series last year, a recurring role for Terror Lake Drive, which was a lot of fun. Played a not so nice character, but it was a lot of fun. And so those type of accomplishments are always, you know, fascinating and fun. I love being in front of the camera, but it's also exciting being behind the camera. You know, I was a content programmer for Warner Brothers Studios and Warner Online. And so working at a big studio like that was a fascinating experience. Now coming back here and putting what I learned at the studio to work being a producer, executive producer on various projects. I'm going to be directing my first horror film later on this year, which is very exciting, called Deep Within the Caves. I, started Turner Casting, and so now I'm helping. I like to help people.
Yeah.
And so, if I can help people more so than when I started out and had no help and really didn't understand very much about the industry, then I'm happy to do that. I like to see people succeed. I just keep branching out, and one of the things I'm going to be doing in May, or at least that's the plan at this point in May, is I'm going to start teaching. I've been asked to do it for years. I have not done it because I've been busy, but I'm going to start, and hopefully I will be able to help actors who are in Kentucky comprehend not only the performing side of things, but the business side of things, because it is show business, and understanding how it all works and what can help you in the process is going to give people a leg up compared to what they might have.
I love that. I love it because you'll help us retain talent, because with the vibrant film industry now as it exists in Kentucky and growing, that they can stay here. In the old days, it was, I got to move to New York, or I have to move to LA. They can stay here and thrive. If you had one piece, let's close it up with this. All right, Dwight, if you had one piece of information to pass along to someone out there who says, hey, I want to be an actor, I want to be an actress, I'm going to college for that, or whatever the case may be, what advice would you give them?
Oh, gosh, there's so many pieces of advice, but one important piece that just popped into my head is approach things from a business standpoint. In other words, don't look to Craigslist, for instance, for acting jobs. Look for legitimate sources. Also, when you are starting out, please don't put background work as legitimate work under film and television. I have seen so many actors doing that. It might possibly get them a small student production or something, but when you start getting into the legitimate areas, we pick that up right away, and then we lose trust. It's like, okay, and then it's hard to push you forward to production, because production might look at that and come back at us and saying, hey, what's this? So do yourself a favor, get the training, get legitimate work under your belt. I know that's hard in the beginning, but don't try to lie on the resume.
There we go. Fair enough. All right. Well, obviously you're passionate. It comes out. You love what you do. Continued success to you, Dwight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Dwight Turner, once again, who, because of the vibrant film industry, because of the way it's growing, decided to make his career happen right here in the state of Kentucky. And now you know the state of the art in the Louisville film industry. Thank you for watching Louisville Focus, and that's a wrap.